Welcome to our first pumpkin wreath tutorial. You can buy these pumpkin wire forms at the Dollar Tree. Luba and I see so many possibilities that go beyond country living. Our goal is to make 7 to 10 pumpkin wreaths with different themes over the next 2 months, and we would love for you to join us on our journey. Hi, my name's Gail, and today we're going to show you how to create this lovely dog pumpkin wreath. We are beginning by cutting felt that was bought by the yard. We're cutting 3 pieces that are 4 by 15 inches long. This will provide a really nice base and structure when we add images to the pumpkin form. Take 1 strip of felt, center it in the middle, and then you're going to hot glue it on. I like to start in the middle, and after I start to glue it on, I wrap it just on the front and a little bit on the sides, and I smooth it back and forth. That way the glue will not glob up on the sides. I started to glue in the middle, and I'm gluing all the way down to the end. Then what I'm going to do is take the felt on the edges there, cut in a little bit on the edges so that it's prepped and it will be glued on a little bit later on. After turning the pumpkin around, I'm repeating the same process, making sure I'm smoothing out the edges after I apply the hot glue and gluing it all the way down near the rim. When trimming the material, I want to make sure that I leave at least a good 3/4 of an inch left, so that way it's easier to wrap around on the back side. And then I'm cutting in a little bit on the edges just to prepare it so I can start to fold it on the back side. I should have left mine a little bit longer than I did. After cutting a line down the center, it's time to wrap the felt over and glue it onto the back side. This part takes a little bit of maneuvering and adjusting to get it just right. Still, it's relatively easy to do. It's time to turn the pumpkin over and start gluing in the edges on both sides. Once finished, leave open spaces on both sides of the one we just added. Then repeat this process by applying the other 2 sheets of felt to the outer 2 middle sections. Here's an image to show what it looks like when finished. We will use 2 fabric quarters, one that has the images on it and the second one that has patterns that enhance the images. Just like we did with the felt, we will cut 4 by 15 inch strips of material. With the images, we will cut 3, and with the patterns, we will cut 4. When working with images, we have 2 sides that we need to balance, although they won't be symmetrical. In order to do that, I like to take 1 piece of material and find where that image is repeated, overlap it, and make sure that I'm cutting out the same strip, so that way it's going to be easier to apply to either side of the center piece. The second one is a simple pattern that will help enhance the dogs. In order to make the fabric water resistant, and to make it more durable, we are applying Mod Podge to the felt and then applying it to the front of the material so that it's easier to center the images. We like to use matte Mod Podge, but you can use satin or gloss as well. At first, it will seem like the glue is not holding the felt and the material together, and that's partially true. So if it falls off, the easiest thing to do is just to align it back on there again. The good news is the material stretched in form. All of that time that you spent centering the piece isn't going to go to waste. And if you want, you could let it dry before moving on to the next step. Or you can use a fabric glue such as fabric tack and add a couple of drops just to hold the material in place so that it will be easier to glue the sides to the back side. The great thing about applying Mod Podge is you can smooth out any wrinkles as you are working on the piece, and you can go back and change it before it dries. I'm allowing the center piece to dry a little bit before turning it over to glue it onto the back side. To make it easier to balance out the sides, I'm applying Mod Podge to both sides first, so then I can center my images. I am focusing on one of the dogs to make sure that I line the same dog up on the other side, and I can adjust this as I go along. While applying the felt may have seemed time consuming, it serves 3 main purposes. Number 1, you don't have to add a border to either side because it's going to give it a finished edge. The second thing is it offers a lot more structure. The third thing is it's so much easier to align your images on there so they don't fall through the wire rims. Just like I did with the felt, I am trimming the edges down quite a bit so that way I can cut in on the edges a little bit so it fits around the wire more easily. Once I finish cutting in on the edges, I'm going to leave the ends near the rims alone for now. Turn it over on the back side, begin gluing the edges of the fabric on the back side of the felt to create a clean edge. At this point, we have finished the edges just like we did with the felt, and now we're ready to add the second material. When applying the second material, you may want to Mod Podge the front and back sides so that way you don't have to do it once it's applied. I did not do that on this piece. I am just using the fabric as it is. All you're going to do is place it in between the two sections, and once you get that aligned up the way you like it, glue the edges down with a hot glue gun. You can see how I fold it in at the top to make it easier to wrap around. When gluing on the edges, make sure to stay about an inch away from the rims because you're going to take the material on the ends and bring it around on the front and wrap it around so that the pattern material is wrapped around the same way that the dog material is wrapped around the rims. Believe it or not, the sides are a lot easier to add than the center part. I'm gluing the edge to the center part and allowing the rest of the material to flow over the rim. Then I will bring the fabric from the back side to the front side and wrap it from the front side onto the back side of the rim, just like the rest of the material. Since I did not add Mod Podge to the pattern material before I began, I'm applying Mod Podge to the front and back now. This will make the material seem a little bit thicker and give it a nice sheen. For the stem, I cut a little piece of pipe insulation and cut out a little section in the center so I can add a bone. You can substitute the pipe foam with a pool noodle from the Dollar Tree, and they also have a knife there that you can use to cut the pool noodles. Here I am wrapping natural sisal around the stem to give it a more rustic texture. Even though I've added the bone, it's easier to add the hanger first. Therefore, we will start with the hanger. Luba is adding the finishing touches. She's making a hanger out of twine and then hot gluing it onto the back of the pumpkin wreath. Then she's wrapping more natural sisal around the bottom and the top to make sure it's thoroughly attached. Now it's time to glue on the bone and embellishments. Most of the embellishments were bought at the Dollar Tree, including the bone, the grass with feathers, the twig garland, and the maple leaves. The Halloween decorations can be bought between the end of July through October. Speaking of dogs, Harley's here and she has a big kiss for you. Twigs and sisal will add a little movement to our wreath. Now for the fun part, the pops of color. Luba is gluing one leaf on the lower left side and 2 leaves on the upper right side. We're not quite there yet because here's Josie. After the video was over, we decided to add the grass with feathers and the golden flowers to add more interest. Thank you for watching, and please join us for our next adventures in wreath making.